I think a lot of people hate apartments, and especially high-rises. We live in Ireland, so it's not the norm to have apartments or very large high-rise buildings. But in parts of Europe, that's changing. For example, here in Vienna. So why do I think people hate high-rises? I think that for one reason, they're just not used to it. In Vienna, it's not actually uncommon to see buildings reaching 5 or 6 stories that were built in the 20th century. But in other places like our home in Ireland, it is very rare to actually see apartments reaching 5 and 6 stories. If you go into the city centre, you're mostly going to see 3 to 4 story buildings that were built in the Victorian or Georgian eras. And newer homes from the 20th and 21st century, these are mostly duplexes as well as bungalows. So there's very, very little apartments in comparison that you see in Ireland. So if the lack of that many apartment buildings comparatively throughout the entire country, you'd obviously not really have that inclination towards apartment living. The second reason, I feel like there are just a lot of preconceived notions about apartment living. And to make this a wee bit more fun, let's go through some of those preconceived notions and let's see if they actually are legitimate or not. And at the end of the video, I'll just give my thoughts on apartment living. So in no specific order, though this one is probably the one most people are going to put on top, noise from neighbours. Yeah, we're all thinking about that unfortunately rowdy neighbour that we're hearing when they're vacuum cleaning, we're hearing when they're speaking loudly. Oh my gosh, we might even be having the smells from their kitchen wafting through the apartment. Luckily, in our past and current apartment, we actually haven't had this problem. They've, thank goodness, actually been able to build an apartment so that we don't really hear noise from the neighbours. In the old apartment, we might hear someone drop something every few months, but other than that, most of the noise would come from when you can hear someone in the hallway, when they're going out or closing the door. But if you're actually inside of your apartment and they're actually inside your apartment, that's a pretty quiet and very hospitable place. But the fact that, based on the layout of the apartment, that this could actually not be a problem, I wouldn't rate this as a legitimate con. Next up, we have the size. And it is no secret that in order to fit this many apartments into this whatever building you have, it's going to be smaller than your regular size house. For us, we definitely had that situation. When we moved into the newer apartment was basically because of that. If work from home taught us anything, having an apartment that's too small doesn't actually work out, especially when you would like that separation between rooms that a house provides. Some people might say it's a benefit, but there's actually, when you're trying to move and you see just how much stuff you have, it's kind of then that you appreciate that you actually have a small space to live in. But for me, that isn't enough to rate this as not a con. This is a big con, the smaller space. And perhaps the most egregious thing for those of us who grew up in the suburbs is the lack of outdoor space. For some apartments, if you're lucky, you're going to get a balcony. But in others, there's no balcony to be had. All those images of summer and just events in your own property, children running in the backyard, lots of space to invite people where you're chilling out and having your barbecues, parties, whatever. That's an aspect of life that you're definitely going to be missing out here living in an apartment. There's the balcony, of course. You can still have your barbecues and some stuff there, but it's nowhere as private as your own set of space would be. I rate this as definitely another big con. Let's see what's next. Pets. That's right off the bat. Lack of space, smaller apartments, and who wants their cat on the balcony? Oh right, I forgot, I'm actually not in our space. This is an Airbnb in Vienna, in which we're going to give you a tour of at the end of the video. But with your pets, especially if it's a smaller apartment like this is one bedroom and living room space. There's not enough space. I wouldn't trust a dog here, and a cat. We're quite some floors up, so I don't want my cat out on that ledge. So big no on pets, even if you're lucky enough to have an apartment where they're allowed. Another one that people would say is a pro, but it can also be a con. Amenities. all these lovely amenities I talked about in our last video about why some rental prices are being so crazy right now. But these amenities, they're good, they're lovely. But the one thing is you gotta share with people. And if I look at the list of all the rest of stuff here, people are the problem. Let's face it, apartments are basically just big communities full of people all living in this shared space. Resources, the amenities, the garbage collection, all this stuff right there in that space. And yeah, there are people who are gonna mess it up. From our own experience, we've seen people not putting out the trash properly, people letting their pets do stuff in the elevators, and yeah, just people altogether, even people smoking on the balcony and dropping their cigarette butts on your own balcony. So far, I don't think I'm doing quite a good job of saying why we should even think about living in apartments. But in spite of this big list of cons, there are some things that make it actually worth it. The real reason why anyone would want to live in such an apartment or a high-rise is the lifestyle. A lot of times when apartments and high-rises are well thought out, they're actually placed in really, really good locations within the city. Just here I can look out and I know there's shops, restaurants, public transportation, all within minutes access of this location. What also may be good about the concept is that for some of the amenities, there are actually in the reach of your budget. Think of it this way. There are some amenities, let's say garbage collection, for example. Usually back in Dublin, we'd have to pay a fee for it. It comes as part of the rent, and even if you want to do some recycling and stuff, we'd still need to go find a recycling centre. In this case, with the shared waste management area, we don't need to go anywhere except downstairs. Everything is taken care of there. And a place just like this one, there's actually a swimming pool on the top floors that is accessible to all residents. Otherwise, you'd have to go find somewhere for a pool. Of course, it brings us back to that first point that the resources are shared, but how much of us would actually be able to install a swimming pool in our backyard? And of course, I hear you're like, but I don't want a swimming pool. That's exorbitant for me. Then there's also some stuff like security systems. For example, in this apartment and other apartments, there's the actual touch button system where you get to see who's there. Especially if you're new to a place, just having that comfort of security and even more people around would help you feel safer in a new area. So I'm about to get to my favorite reason of this sort of lifestyle. And I've been an adult for, I think over a decade now. Yeah, over a decade now. And I still dislike chores. The thing is I have a house, there are lots of these extra chores that are there that I have to do. Cutting the grass? Yeah, don't need to do that. That's taken care of. As well as some other forms of maintenance here that I don't need to take care of myself. I go back to the waste disposal. Someone comes collect stuff. I don't need to be like, I need to remember to put out the bins. No, they're there. They get put out already. I know some may call it laziness, but the thing is that the one thing we don't have a lot of these days, thanks to, the way the world unfortunately is time. If work from home, for those of us that like work from home taught us anything, there's a lot of things that we can do with the extra time. For example, these YouTube videos that you see right here, if I had to be taking care of a lot more household, tasks that could be done to maintenance, would have less time to make it. Yes, these sort of places are really built, yes, for resource management, and of course we can't get away from the profitability side of it for the building creators, but also for those of us that can have the decision between house and apartment, we can make use of these extra conveniences to give ourselves a little bit more time once it fits within our lifestyle. So in conclusion, we have some really, really big cons which cannot be ignored. If you need these things, house living all the way. But for those others of us, and those of us who've never really given it any thought, maybe living in an apartment won't be so bad. And now, quick apartment tour. Okay, so this has started a quick little tour here. Just gonna use B-roll to show anything because the lighting out here is atrocious. But basically, it's a 1-bedroom in this place called the Triple. It's a bunch of towers in Vienna that have just been built this year if you're watching it in 2021. Right here we have the kitchen, usual stuff, you know, kettle thing, dishwasher here, and we've got our stove, countertops, yeah, usual stuff, nothing, and coffee maker there, and we've got our glass table. Yeah, you can tell when somebody furnishing the house isn't a techie, because as much as I like glass tables, my mouse, my poor mouse, wireless mouse, gets interrupted, and it's so annoying. But nice table, fits for people, and of course, as I've heard, this is one of IKEA's most famous pull-out sleeping sofa, couch, whatever you call it. And on this side, TV, and yes, I can do the reveal. This is what everyone's been waiting for, the view. So right here, we're on the 11th floor. Pretty nice. Yeah, where exactly are we? In Vietnam. The stuff's in German. My German isn't that good, but I'll show you that as we go out there. And what do we have here? We have now the bedroom. Not much to see here. One bedroom place with a bedroom. Don't have any lights on, but instead of opening that big one over there, I'm just open this little one, and you're not going to be able to hear me properly as I open this, but here we go. Right, and here we are here on the balcony. Yeah, so as I said before, on the 11th floor, and it is windy out here. Luckily there's less wind today, so you can actually hear me. Today was a good day to see whether I'm comfortable with heights or not, and the lucky thing is that yes, I'm getting more used to being here. Disadvantages of, you know, being in 11th floor on a balcony is that it gets to be pretty windy, but also it's winter, so it's also kind of cold. We do have this traffic right here. I've heard that the higher up you go, the less traffic should be a problem, but in this case we've got one of the busiest roads in and out of Vienna, so we can expect some traffic noise. But the good thing is that as you go inside, that noise pretty much all but disappears. Yeah, it's just like that. So yeah, not much to see here, just a small bedroom place, just cool enough to stay in for a couple days. And I guess that's the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you back in Dublin. Bis später.